You know that feeling when you walk into a room and it feels like everyone's staring at you? Or when you trip on the sidewalk and you're convinced the whole world just witnessed your embarrassment? Well, here's something that might blow your mind. They probably didn't even notice. Picture this. You're wearing a shirt with an embarrassing image on it. Let's say it's Barry Manilow because apparently that was deeply uncool to college students in the early 2000s. You walk into a room full of people and you're absolutely certain that at least half of them are going to notice your fashion disaster. But when researchers actually tested this, only about 25% of people noticed. Some studies found it was even lower, just 10%. This massive gap between what we think people notice about us and what they actually notice has a name. It's called the spotlight effect, and once you understand it, it might just change how you move through the world. Think about your own life for a second. Remember that time you said something awkward in a meeting? Or when you had a bad hair day and felt like everyone was judging you? The spotlight effect is why those moments felt so intensely visible, like you were standing on a stage with a bright light shining directly on you while everyone else sat in the audience, watching your every move. But here's where it gets interesting. This isn't just about embarrassing moments. The spotlight effect shows up everywhere when you're giving a presentation and feel like every tiny mistake is glaringly obvious, when you're at the gym, convinced everyone's watching your form, or even when you make what you think is a brilliant comment in a group discussion and expect everyone to be impressed. The research on this is fascinating. Psychologists Thomas Gilovich, Kenneth Savitsky, and Victoria Medvec ran these clever experiments where they didn't just test embarrassing situations. They also had people wear shirts with images they actually liked. Bob Marley, Martin Luther King Jr., Jerry Seinfeld, and guess what? People still overestimated how much others would notice, even when they felt good about what they were wearing. So why does this happen? It all comes down to something psychologists call egocentric bias. Now don't worry, this doesn't mean you're narcissistic. It's just that you're literally the center of your own universe. You experience every moment of your life from inside your own head, feeling every emotion, noticing every detail about yourself. And because your own experience is so vivid and intense to you, your brain assumes it must be equally vivid and intense to everyone else. It's like being the main character in a movie. You know how in films, the camera follows the protagonist everywhere, capturing their every expression and mistake? That's how we experience our own lives. But here's the thing, to everyone else, you're not the main character. You're just another person in the background of their movie. This gets even more interesting when you look at something called the reverse spotlight effect. Researchers sprayed people with a noticeable scent, then gave them time to get used to it. When these people entered a room, they thought barely anyone would notice the smell. Maybe 20% of people. In reality, over 60% noticed it. When we're not aware of something about ourselves, we assume others won't be aware of it either. The spotlight effect isn't just some quirky psychological phenomenon. It has real consequences. It can make you hold back from speaking up in meetings because you're worried about saying something stupid. It can stop you from trying new things because you're afraid of looking foolish. It can even contribute to social anxiety, where the feeling of being watched and judged becomes so intense it interferes with daily life. And for some people, the spotlight burns even brighter. If you're the only person from your background in a room, maybe you're the only woman in a tech meeting or the only person of color in your class, you might experience what researchers call the minority spotlight effect. You feel like you're not just representing yourself, but your entire group, and that pressure can be exhausting. Athletes know this feeling too. When you're on the field or the court, it can feel like every mistake is magnified, every missed shot remembered. Studies show this is especially true for individual sports where you can't blend into a team. The weight of feeling watched can actually hurt performance, creating a vicious cycle where anxiety about being in the spotlight makes you more likely to make the mistakes you're worried about. But here's the good news, and this is where things get really practical. Once you know about the spotlight effect, you can start to work with it instead of against it. The most powerful tool? Perspective taking. Next time you're worried everyone noticed your mistake, flip it around. How much attention do you pay to other people's minor slip-ups? When was the last time you really dwelled on someone else's bad hair day or verbal stumble? Here's a simple exercise. Think about the last meeting or social event you attended. Can you remember what everyone was wearing? Can you recall every comment each person made? Probably not, right? You were too busy thinking about your own stuff. Well, guess what? So was everyone else. The research backs this up. When people are asked to imagine an embarrassing situation happening to someone else instead of themselves, they report feeling much less embarrassed. It's only when we're in the hot seat that everything feels so intense and visible. Another strategy that works? Just acknowledging it with humor. If you do something embarrassing, a quick, well, my body made it to work, but I think my brain is still in bed, can instantly diffuse the situation. It shows confidence and self-awareness, and ironically, it makes people pay even less attention to whatever mistake you made. Mindfulness helps too. When you find yourself spiraling into spotlight effect thinking, try to ground yourself in the present moment. Look around. Notice what other people are actually doing. Are they staring at you in horror? Or are they scrolling on their phones, lost in their own thoughts? Here's something that surprised me when I learned about it. Even knowing about the spotlight effect doesn't make it go away completely. It's so deeply wired into how our brains work that intellectual understanding alone isn't enough. But awareness does help. It's like knowing that the monster in the horror movie is just special effects. You might still jump at the scary parts, but you recover faster because you know what's really going on. What do you think is the most embarrassing thing that's happened to you that you're convinced everyone remembers? I'd bet good money that most people who were there have completely forgotten about it. The spotlight effect reveals something profound about human nature. We're all walking around convinced that we're the star of the show, when really we're all just extras in each other's lives. And that's not depressing. It's liberating. It means you can take more risks, be more authentic, speak up more often. The imaginary audience in your head, they're not paying nearly as much attention as you think. So the next time you feel that familiar sensation of being under the spotlight, remember the Barry Manilow t-shirt study. Remember that everyone else is too busy worrying about their own spotlight to shine one on you. The stage lights you feel, they're mostly in your head. And once you realize that, you might just find the courage to stop performing and start living.